to find out a bit more about your business, the background, what problem are you solving, and how was the mission born? So let's begin with Will.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Will Reed, and I'm the founder and CEO at Sideways 6. Sideways 6 was born 6 or 7 years ago, actually. And since then, we've been on this mission to bring ideas to life at some amazing organizations. What that means is that we are predominantly a technology company, so we have some technology and idea management platform. You can think of it like a really smart suggestion box where employees can put their ideas in and hopefully have them brought to life either by themselves or by upper management, and also a team of consultants as well. The problem that we're solving is twofold. So first up, we are helping businesses to uncover those great ideas that employees have, uncover the problems that need solving from the front line, uncover insight from the front line that they can use to create better products, better services, a better place to work. And then secondly, we are giving a voice to people who typically might not have a voice within those large enterprises. It was born out of me feeling like I was one of those people in a large enterprise, and then going on to work at a small consultancy where we were building technical tools for large enterprises and seeing that there may be a gap here to help achieve that mission.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And Philip, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, certainly. So way back when, it seems like a long time ago now, I was a management consultant at Accenture for my sins, and I had an itch to scratch that I really wanted to launch a business, but I didn't actually have an idea at that stage. You're looking sort of way back in 2012. So I decided to join a smaller organization which was selling bespoke software. And to cut a long story short, we moved rapidly into building bespoke software in the pricing space. So lots of business processes which were happening on Excel spreadsheets. We wanted to deliver a system which was a more efficient way to do that. So that kind of gave me the idea, the catalyst to found a business. So BlackCurve was launched in 2016. I suppose it was definitely springboarded out of the Accelerator network, because I joined that semester and launched the company as part of that ecosystem. And fast forward to today, we've done sort of three investment rounds up to this stage, and we're supporting e-commerce businesses to make pricing decisions. So you're all probably shopping a lot more online these days. We're the ones behind saying what price should be presented to you. So depending on what your favor is, I'm partial to chocolate, so I can organize different prices for you if the price is right. But fundamentally, we're ingesting things like competitor pricing information, things like your historical sales transactions, stock levels, the weather, all of those data sets into our algorithms and saying, right, Mr. Website, Mrs. Website, today this is the price for this product, and we're basically helping our customers extract more value out of that exchange. So if we can increase the price of the product and help our retailer, for example, sell the same amount of money, that's one example of how we would support our customers.
Great, thank you, Philip. And he's the one to go to for your chocolate in. So moving on, coming to the question everyone's curious about, how did each of you tackle your first sales? What worked, what didn't? And did the Accelerator programs help you in navigating this challenge? So Will, did you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I can jump in. So we're very much, just for context, we're very much like enterprise software. What that means is that we're working with and partnering with really large organizations, a couple of thousand people plus. And typically in enterprise software, you have long sales cycles. So it's going to take you anything from kind of a couple of months right through to potentially a year or more to start working with these organizations. And that, in the long run, can be a bit of a bummer and something to manage, and can be a bit of like a challenge. But in the beginning of a business, I think it's a really positive thing for getting those first sales in, and we kind of use that to our advantage. So what we did was we decided on the problem that we were trying to solve, this whole employee ideas piece, and giving employees a voice and giving more ideas to the business. And then we decided on a niche way that we were going to do that. So it doesn't matter too much for this conversation, but we have a very unique way of doing that, and that we integrate with some platforms that companies are already using. And then essentially just went out to try and speak to the people that we thought would have that pain, and essentially run like what was called like customer development with them, and to work out whether they did actually have that pain, and whether this method that we were going to go down the route of the solution that we were going to try and build would be solving that pain. And I essentially found those people, turned that into a bit of a persona. So heads of innovation at large organizations, at large companies in the UK who were using these tools. And then we went down the route of trying to speak to them. And it was kind of as simple as that. But I think that the key things that I would draw out of that is that I probably sent about 200 of these messages trying to start those conversations, and then potentially ended up having 30 to 40, maybe even 50 of those initial conversations. But each of those 200 messages was super tailored and super like really trying to get across, like, here's why I think you might have this problem, here's the problem I think you might have, here's how we might be trying to solve it. And importantly, it wasn't trying to ask to sell to them, it was trying to go on that discovery journey together of saying, like, well, do you actually have that problem? I think that's where that longer sales cycle can actually be a blessing in the early days, because what it meant was that actually we went out with just an idea, didn't have any software built, and we were able to sign our first client, just happened to be British Airways, with essentially mock-ups. And that wasn't, they were on board that it was mock-ups. They knew full well it was mock-ups, and they kind of bought into that development journey. So yeah, a few things there would be to kind of ask for that advice, get really, really super targeted with who you're trying to speak to, and then be super honest and say that we're early on this journey, and then if they genuinely do have that problem, then they'll be willing to kind of work with you. When it comes to accelerator programs, I think I was on the Centre for Entrepreneurs program during the inception of the business, and aside from the fantastically useful kind of program itself, actually I name dropped it in every single message I was sending, just saying, look, this is where I'm coming from, like I'm a kind of young entrepreneur trying my best, and it probably did help to open some doors. But yeah, ask for advice, and super targeted, and then focus on that problem and that value proposition. And if people have the problem and the value proposition sounds interesting, then you might be able to get a few conversations. And then if you just focus on trying to solve that problem with them, this is specific to enterprise sales, and that can be a really solid way to get some initial sales.
Yeah, thank you for that, Will. And to land British Airways as your first, that's kudos on that for sure. And then Philip, do you want to tell us about your experience tackling those first sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we had a bit of a similar experience. So I think don't be afraid. I think a lot of big companies and even small companies love working with people, love working with startups that have got hustle. And so actually similar, I treated it as a sales pitch. I created a vision. I've created personas similar to yourself, Will, and basically just approached lots of people, just kept having lots and lots of conversations. And then when you land that meeting and you basically paint the vision to them. I mean, I think I turned up to one of our first customers with a bunch of PowerPoint slides, which of what the UX of the system could look like, and we hadn't even built it at that stage. And actually, I ultimately, the negotiation came down to me saying, look, this is going to cost you a lot of money to build if you're going to go out into the bespoke market. Why don't you work with a startup? And actually, one of our earlier customers agreed to pay up front for the first year to kind of give us that capital as well to go out and get some of the engineers. So you can get creative with some of the earlier sales discussions, those early customers, because they know they're buying into maybe a wacky idea, but they know it's slightly risky. But if you can make it kind of win-win, and they're buying your expertise and your background, and you can paint the vision, you'd be surprised at the willingness for people to give you not only their ideas to help with product development, but also capital in which to launch your product with. So fairly similar from our perspective there.
Yeah, so it's really great to hear that for both of you. It's sort of finding, these first starts that are building these partnerships with you and buy into the vision, which is, and, you know, not being afraid to go knock down those doors, as you said. So then, you know, with 2020 as the backdrop, you know, in a year, you know, unprecedented, how has that impacted your sales strategy, the team, execution? Yeah.
I think first up for us, it's been like a human thing. So obviously it's just a very challenging time for everyone to like just keep on going, really, and to try and put their effort into work and to kind of keep your pecker up. And that's probably been the biggest challenge, to be honest, is just trying to be there for people, trying to keep engagement high, or even not try and keep engagement high, and just try and like accept that people are going through a tough time. I think especially over the last couple of months, it's been super challenging. But on the sales on the sales side, I think when it first hit, we had to make some pretty quick moves to basically say, right, everything's changed, and again, working with really big companies, and to be clear, we're mainly a nice to have rather than like a must have as a tool. And so we were taken off the table sometimes by clients who were about to start working with us, but the situations changed and discretionary budgets were cut, and that was a big challenge. And I think the way that we got through that was to just basically say, look, everything's changed, everything's changing. What's our new value prop? What's the offer? What's the offer now? And so we came up with that. Like, if we used to be this, almost, if the value proposition used to be this, the message used to be this, what is it now? So we started to talk more about remote work. We started to talk more around engaging employees that were going through difficult times. We started to talk more about building back after COVID with employee ideas, and coming up with those value props was super important, and just kind of realizing that things had changed, and also realizing that the people we could sell to had changed. So that group had probably shrunk temporarily, and starting to work out, well, which organizations still buying, which types of businesses are still buying, and why might they be buying. So we had to just reevaluate and kind of go again, and then the key stuff, I think.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Philip, I think you also mentioned, you know, the human element when we spoke previously.
Yeah, I think, previously we used to do a lot of face-to-face sales, actually, especially for some of our larger ticket sizes. So for obvious reasons, that didn't happen. But I think, you know, like everybody, March, April, May was tough. You know, even in the summer last year was tough. But I mean, from our perspective, thankfully, we were in e-commerce, so we were fairly shielded. But we were an optimization product. So if you look back to earlier lockdowns, supply chains, constraints, staff going on furlough and all sorts, that was kind of primary number one focus for retailers in our space, is getting their supply chains in order. So it was, for us, it was really we just got to hunker down, wait and see, and then the markets kind of thankfully opened up from an e-commerce perspective. But certainly from a sales point of view, you know, we invested a lot more time on video. So our marketing teams and our sales teams, we spent a lot more time creating video content to try and get that personal interaction with customers, and trying to identify what buying groups, what personas are buying from us. Can we create content and still have a face for the business, even if we're not, you know, interacting in person? And actually, you know, it's interesting because we've surprised ourselves at the business that we've managed to do virtually, and actually we sort of already sowed some of that seed before lockdown, before coronavirus, of seeing how could we potentially reduce our cost of sale by doing kind of Zoom pitches and demos online rather than going in person. So that's been the fundamental change for us, and also we've expanded our offering. So prior to March last year, we used to have more of a bells and whistles, all singing, all dancing type product, but with lots more entrants coming into the market, you know, especially looking to set up online businesses, we decided to launch a more of an entry level product, and that has actually enabled us to re-engage with people that historically said, I like it, but I can't afford it, or I like it, but it's not quite what I want. And the interesting thing though is that we found is that although that's actually enabled us to have conversations again with a wider pool, but they've subsequently still end up buying the more expensive product, even though they've said no. So that was actually really, really refreshing to see. It sort of justifies the the direction of the product at the more sort of higher end.
Yeah, it's great to see, both of you have been talking about, kind of the whole human element, and then, getting even more creative to really dig in and connect. So it's actually positive things that have actually come out of the time. And then next, what lessons would you point to from, kickstarting early sales and growing through to scaling, any do's and don'ts in the B2B space? Both of you have done really well with the traction of your growth. So we would love to hear you touch on these points.
I feel like I've gone first every time. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I don't mind.
Yeah, either.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, it's finding those champions, finding those companies that want to, especially if you're selling B2B, and I'm sure the same as if you're selling B2C, although I don't know that world as much as B2B sales. Finding those champions and engaging in lots of conversations, continually talk to them. I think us as an organization have been guilty of not talking enough to customers. And I think actually, if I look back, I think we would have got product market fit a hell of a lot sooner if we'd engaged with customers, because they give you the cheat sheet. They give, especially the ones that are your champions, they tell you, I don't like that, I need that, that's my challenge. And if your creative process is in a vacuum, you're not helping anybody. You can pat yourself on the back and high five yourself if I've cracked it, but fundamentally, people are going to vote with their signature, and you're going to pay the price in churn from a SaaS point of view if you haven't got that product market fit. So investing in those relationships, spending the time listening to the customers. You don't have to set up an all singing or dancing customer success model, or even have somebody necessarily 100% on customer success, but in the early days, just organize catch-ups with your customers. You'd be so surprised at what they tell you.
Will, your take?
That's really solid advice. I think it's like in the early days, it's like use your smaller size to your advantage would be the biggest advice. I think that there is first off, my experience of starting a software company that sells to bigger companies is that as long as you can show that you take some certain things seriously, like security and the commitments you're making to actually deliver things, and mainly those two, then the rest, like they're pretty open to you being a tiny company. And I think as long as you're honest about it, I think you could make a mistake of going in and trying to kind of pretend you're bigger than you are, and then they go, oh, well, where are their case studies, and where are their where's all their track record and stuff. But if you go in very openly and say, look, I really care about this space, I want to do something really new, it's different for this reason, I think it will solve your pain, and I'm a small team, or even like one person with some other people, and I will work so hard with you to make this work, and we will, like, there is not an option for whatever I sell to you to fail, because I need you to be that customer who's going to be singing and dancing about me at a later date. I think you can really use that being smaller to your advantage, and you can have those first customers, certainly in a B2B space, where they help you to make, like you say, to make sure that your product is actually solving that pain and is actually going to be useful. And then just some other kind of bits and pieces from learning along the way is to, when you do get that first sniff of a customer, is to get across to them without having too much sales breath, without seeming too desperate, that look, you're willing to kind of put a lot of effort into this and to make this work. And then the final thing is, when you do start to hire people into that sales team, I think that you're looking for people who have like an entrepreneurial spirit themselves, because the playbook won't be there to start off with, and you need someone to hand, or to kind of work with you and to try and work out what's going on, rather than someone who comes in and expects a process. And I think we got very fortunate with that, with a couple of our with our two earlier sales hires who were fantastic in that respect. So yeah, that would be tips from myself.
Yeah, great tips. And I think, it's, as you both said, it's really building these relationships with these first clients along the lines of, what you touch on with the building the relationships and such. I see Nathan and Lucas and Richard, their questions are all touching on, how do you start having those, preliminary conversations? How did you start such discovery chats? And, is there specific tools that help you figure out who in an organization that you might be the ones to talk to? So if maybe Philip, if you want to kick off on Undering.
So there's no shortcut, I'm afraid. So there's no magic list of people that you need to talk to. LinkedIn for us is probably, it's a bit of a boring answer, is still our best resource of finding contact information and relevant people. But fundamentally, I've spent days and days and days turning into a cold caller, turning into an emailer, turning into just hustling and trying to test different messaging, trying to post on different people's LinkedIn profiles. That's the only way you're going to break down doors. And it is slightly harder actually in lockdown, because certainly from our point of view, everybody's remote, so you can't call the company head office and get put through by a receptionist to the person you speak to. So you've got to just use LinkedIn, use those kind of tools to try and pique interest. And actually, for us more recently, using video has been really good, because people like your video, or they comment on your video, and that's that you can use those things as they might be interested. How do I connect with those, and how do I make the connection? So that's sorry, there's no easy answer, but you've just got to hustle, I suppose.
Yeah, so it was all kind of LinkedIn for us early days. Just having a bit of an inclination as to what that job title might be that has that pain, and then approaching enough of them in a really tailored way. And I think that's so important, is to tailor it, and to not just kind of splurge with like, hi, I'm Will and I want to sell you this thing, can we talk? Like, to genuinely get into like why they might have the pain, why the organization might have the pain, particularly their organization. But then it was just like LinkedIn. I can probably dig out some of the early messages I sent if it's useful. Obviously they're pretty old, but if anyone wants to send me an email on like will@sideways6.com, I can respond with some of those early messages. But yeah, just tailor and then scale, and then at a later date we moved into email and calls and all sorts. But to start off with, I think LinkedIn is your friend.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, just add to that. Actually, I think sometimes you can over-engineer the connection, the sales process at the start. And one of our highest performing emails is, do you need a pricing tool? ? That is it. There's nothing more glamorous than that. It's one sentence. We're all really, really time poor. And so you can insert whatever you're doing into that. You can send that as a LinkedIn message. You can send that as an email. Obviously, it was GDPR compliant, but that was uber powerful for us. So don't overthink it as well.
Yeah, I mean, bringing it back to basics, right? Yeah. So any parting thoughts from both of you that you would like to share with our audience?
Just saw there was another question around how do you create curiosity to kickstart the pain discovery conversations. I think that
Lucas.
Yeah. So I just think that's a really interesting word to use around like creating curiosity. So I think if you dig into that, you'll find your way. But for us, it was, have you tried to do employee ideas before and it's failed because of this reason? And that reason was basically our whole reason for existing, the whole reason we thought there was a market there. So for many people, they would say, no, we haven't actually. But for those that did, they would be like, yeah, we have, and it was really painful, and okay, yeah, I'm up for speaking. So I think you're absolutely right to use that curiosity, and like, how can you, for your space, think through like what might be that pain where they go, oh, yeah, wow, we really do have that pain, to get them thinking. So that would be my final parting thoughts, I think.
Yeah, I'll just add. I think the pain point is it's a really valid point there. And actually, we discovered quite early on that that save for us, saving money or making money is actually not the critical pain point for our product. Because how many emails do you get in your working life, those of us that are working for employers, of X product can save you money, Y product can make you this amount of money? The pain point is things like, you know, it's annoying for us, it's annoying for our customers to have to manage pricing in Excel. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. Wouldn't it be great to have a better way that could save you, I don't know, 4 days a week, for example? So trying to get in the heads of the customers and work out what is their pain points, that's what helps you get product market fit. And then that's what helps you, you know, from a SaaS perspective, really open the taps from a sales point of view.
Yeah. Thanks, both of you, for those parting thoughts. Yeah, I think really great takeaways for our fellow founders in the audience. So I want to share a big thanks for Will and for Philip for joining us, and the Center for Entrepreneurs bringing our communities together. And from the Accelerator Network, if anyone is looking for support at the various stages of growth, we are actually open for applications to the Accelerator Academy for the next cohort. So please do connect with us, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you for having us.